7個夠啦。
咁就請邀請咗啲政府當局啊、數碼廣播啊，
係請邀請呢個政。
Shall we invite the administration, the DBC representatives, and the deputations into the chamber, please?
上面仲多過下邊。
頭先有6個，而家有6個咧。
計埋你7個啦。
7個。
如果譬如有啲佢未嚟到咧，咁啊講完一彎佢就嚟咗咧，到時候先後補翻俾佢咯。
係咯，你同我 hold 住睇邊個打邊個啦。剪風，睇下有冇啲字唔識讀先。呢個點讀啊？識定戚啊？鄧次啊？次。羅旭啟、劉其潤，呢個係玉君啦，冇錯，係讀玉噶啦，呢個係咪啊？定係讀國㗎？讀玉啊？玉係咪㗎？問下好喎。我唔使介紹出席嗰啲官員㗎嘛，係唔需要㗎。
可以嘅，冇所謂。
唔需要㗎，係咪？
唔需要又得，冇所謂。
陳忠友、嘉裕、德全，呢位程女士真係就咁程女士。
係啊，程女士。
哦，
開始啦，可以。
係咪有聲㗎啦？
嚇，有聲㗎，唔使嘅，你佢開咗俾你。
就開始得啦嘛，係咪？夠人啦 ，OK。好，我哋而家。
I now call the meeting to order. The purpose of this special meeting is to hear deputations, views regarding the discontinuation of broadcasting service by DBC. The chairman, Mr. Raymond Wong, is otherwise engaged. He is attending the PAC meeting. He'll be coming back later on. Will members please clip on the mic? Channel 0 is for the floor, 1 Cantonese, 3 for English. Just a reminder that other than electoral members and designated officials attending today's meeting, all representations and speeches will not be protected by powers and privileges ordinance under section 83A and 84. If members have any direct pecuniary interest or indirect pecuniary interest, please disclose them before the meeting. And under 41(2) of the Rules of Procedure, members are not supposed to mention any court cases that are sub judice, which will prejudice the cases. There are 3 sessions with 83 deputations. The first session is from 9 to 11. Thereafter, we're going to have a break. I'll be inviting the SEED to speak for 3 minutes, and then I'll be inviting deputations to take it in turn to speak for 3 minutes each. And please do not repeat what is included in the submissions. All the submissions will be posted on the web and made available to members. If members haven't got any submissions, you're welcome to submit them after the meeting. Please do not use cocktail language because this would make it inconvenient for the simultaneous interpretation. And also, please do not use offensive or insulting language against the officials when you speak. Secretary, thanks very much, Madam Chair, and I'm grateful to members of the public to attend for attending the meeting. I know that you understand, you appreciate you're concerned about this. From the 11th to 31st of October, the DBC merely played music, and also on the 31st of October, it ceased the service. It has also made application for. We have made an application for a change of the broadcasting service for 60 days, so that the receiver, interim receiver, would have more time to resolve the issues. We have received further information from the receiver. The CA will consider the application and will make an announcement when we have the details. From the 10th to 15th of October, the DBC discontinued with the service. We have considered the representation of DBC, and we've decided to impose a fine of $80,000 on DBC. DBC is a licensed broadcaster. The spectrum is available public resource. We appreciate the shareholders' disputes resulted in a lack of funding, and they had to discontinue with the service, and that really let down the members of the public. As I said, the government attaches importance to freedom of journalism and the independent operation of the broadcaster, but it doesn't mean that the government is not concerned about the development of DBC. Within the context of the license, we are discharging our supervisory role. In accordance with the licensing condition, we're dealing with the DBC issue. For DBC to develop successfully, it would be good for the entire development of digital audio broadcasting. This is not what's happening today is not what the government wants to see. I don't agree with some allegation that this is undermining freedom of speech. Hong Kong is a place where there is freedom of speech. Everybody is entitled to their views, and also the broadcasters can also decide on the position. I'd like to urge the shareholders of DBC to be pragmatic in resolving the disputes, and I hope that DBC and the interim receiver will, through commercial and legal or lawful means, identify ways to resolve the disputes among the shareholders. The authorities will continue to monitor the situation. We'll be listening to the deputations this morning attentively. Thank you. Well, Mr. Ho is not going to speak, is he? Can you tell us the status of the DBC representatives? Will they be taken in turn to speak? Well, let me add. At the last meeting, the chairman, Mr. Raymond Wong, said that DBC would be invited to attend this meeting. And if Mr. Albert Ching and Mr. Morris Ho would like to respond to certain points raised by the deputations, they're welcome to do so. but the deputations will take the floor first. We haven't given the floor to DBC yet. So they are allowed to speak, although they are not on the queue, and they are welcome to make any response at any point of the meeting. Mr. Albert Ching, will you speak into the mic? Yes. Well, you've been taken off the air, but you have to speak into the mic. By way of clarification, Madam Chair, if any members or officials or members of the public make any points that I'd like to clarify, I can raise my hands. Yes, indeed. All right, let's move on to the deputation, Mr. Jackie Lim. I'm not sure whether I have to declare my interest. I was a guest at DBC on 2 occasions for about 2 hours. Mr. Gregory So said that this is a commercial dispute. I would like you to do one thing. Now, why don't you approach a private hospital and conduct a brain scan? And this is insulting the intelligence of the members of the public if this is commercial dispute. All right? Order, please. Order. Mr. Lim, just a reminder that, as I said a moment ago, you're not supposed to use offensive, insulting language against anyone. Well, this is not insulting. The officials are insulting the intelligence of the members of the public. We're just being reciprocating. If this is indeed a commercial dispute, it would be very straightforward. If Mr. Bill Wong is of the view that Albert Ching is really playing fast and loose with the money, he could have kicked you out at the board. And Mr. Albert Ching did say, or did suggest that he would purchase the shares, and no one is making an offer. And on the 20th of October 2012, I won't mention the clip played on that particular night. Mr. So, you must have listened to that. If this is indeed a commercial dispute, why is it that we cannot resolve the problem just by injection of capital? Mr. Xi Jinping said last week that he was concerned about opinions expressed on the web. If I may say this, on the web there is the golden charm. If the shareholders' disputes are occurring at ATV, will you be saying the same thing? I must go on the record to say that if there are any shareholders' disputes at ATV, and then you intervene, then I'll be showing you this piece of paper. I'm making 2 requests today. First of all, I hope that the Secretary will retract his remarks regarding commercial disputes, because apparently, from the members of the public's point of view, this is wholly unreasonable assertion. Second, under the broadcasting ordinance, I hope that the Secretary will ask DBC to resolve the problems and resume broadcasting. All right, Mr. Chen. Well, I urge the administration to set up a select committee at the Legislative Council. Some DBC shareholders go against the pledges and refuse to inject any capital. I have doubts about the ability of the shareholders. The license was issued on the basis of the abilities of the shareholders. Has the government fallen down on its job? The DBC just played the music at one point, and a fine of $80,000 was imposed. And in November, there was no broadcasting at all. So what action will be taken by the administration? If I may put this to Mr. Gregory So. Now, when when it came to the broadcasting of the London Olympics, you did intervene, but you didn't do anything at all in regard to the DBC saga. It seems to be that there is a dereliction of duty. I do have doubts about your competence, Mr. Greg So. And the boss of SEED, the EXCO members, the CE, and so on, are they aware of the audio clip that was played? And also the FS, former and existing CS or CE, have they given an instruction to the SED regarding the DBC saga? A lot of electrical members did not pay enough attention to this. I very much like to reprimand them. Ms. Kathleen Lai, I urge electrical to set up a select committee to investigate into the discontinuation of broadcasting by DBC, and also urge the government to issue more licenses for the following reasons. First, since 1991, Metro started broadcasting. We had 3 major broadcasters, and many of the programs are actually all wine in new bottles. They can satisfy the demand of the public, and the DBC has been very bold in its production. There are 7 channels providing a wide variety of programs to satisfy demands. Second, compared with other broadcasters, the DBC gives greater room for freedom of expression. There are other phone-in programs are very biased, and people are debarred from expressing their views. And people can engage the DBC hosts in debates in an exhaustive manner. And the programs, the advertising is inexpensive. They allow people to advertise their own positions, their own SME businesses. And we allow 100 flowers to blossom. DBC allows interaction with the members of the public. It is a departure from the conventional broadcasters. There are cuisine programs, and the hosts would respond to callers on Facebook and allow interaction with the audience. And this is a rarity for audio broadcasters. And they allow the members of the public to be involved in the broadcasting, and they also rope in the younger generation. The DBC is grooming a lot of young talents in Hong Kong, and DBC strikes a balance between the minority taste and the majority taste. And it is also doing a lot. It was doing a lot to for the ethnic minorities. It also played Cantonese operas, and it has looked after the minority interest. And I think that DBC is really a rarity in Hong Kong. Because of its uniqueness, DBC will have a lot going for it. I'm wondering why the shareholders refused to inject any capital and paralyze the entire station. When the government is a supervisor, it should intervene in the whole thing. Thank you.
Madam Fong Yuk-man. First of all, I'd like to say that any media is a tool that belongs to the community, and the DBC should be monitored by the government and the community. I think the government should really conduct an investigation, because one of the person in charge, Mr. Zhang, has pointed out that the incident does not involve disputes among shareholders, but rather there is the question of political pressure being put on them. So since the shareholders have made commitment to investment and they renege on the promise, and yet they're not being punished, and they can simply go away. And I also like to point out that the broadcasting industry is not really an industry. I hope the government will not describe this as a business because it involves, freedom of information and freedom of speech. I understand that in many authoritarian states, the government will control the media in order to stifle the freedom of expression. And I don't want Hong Kong to become a place like that. The UN and also the European Commission has also issued guidelines requiring the regulators of broadcasting organizations to be independent of the government and that the licensing of such services should not be subject to political interference and that they should be transparent and accountable. In this regard, Hong Kong is lagging behind. The government should, in the light of the DBC incident, should reform the licensing and telecommunication ordinance and also scrap the requirement that the issuance of license should be authorized eventually by the CE before it can go ahead, because you've really vetted all the vetted the application. We shouldn't require the approval by the CE. Most of the ordinances originated from the colonial days, but are we still in a colony? The colonial government would like to place all the powers in the hands of the government. We hope that the SAR government, which claims that it is no longer that Hong Kong is no longer a colony and therefore shouldn't do that anymore, and it should immediately scrap the authority by the C and the EXCO to have the final say in making the decision. Broadcasting is not something that should be taken seriously. I think in the DBC incident, there is a loophole because the government will only allow the major consortium to operate broadcasting services. They talk about the technology, whether they have sufficient funds, but they've not mentioned, the media perspective. Finally, I'd like to say that the DBC had broadened its content to cover, for example, ethnic minorities. The government should therefore review the need for community broadcasting. Mr. Hui Kin Sun. Will those in the public gallery stop clapping? Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to first of all declare my interest. During the preparatory stage of the DBC, I actually had helped with its preparation. Today, I represent the Digital Promotion Association, the DRB, to make my submission. What is the purpose of setting up the DRD? Well, in March last year, the government issued licenses to the three organizations, and our industry believed that we should do something among our own profession in order to support the government's policy regarding digital broadcasting. There were a dozen or so stakeholders, ranging from manufacturers, retailers, and distributors have set up this association. Initially, we encountered many difficulties. At the beginning, the reception of the broadcasting was not very satisfactory, and we've actually reflected our concern to the parties. Gradually, the public started to accept the digital broadcasting service, and the situation has improved as far as the industry is concerned because more retailers were willing to promote their products. While the DBC was about to take off, and after it's done a lot of work, we have this incident, and this has caused a severe impact on the trade. To put it simply, previously we might sell 10 radio sets a day. Now we're only able to sell 1 radio set in 10 days. So this has really, it has actually, caused business to come to a standstill for our industry. So I hope to relate the concern of the industry to the government. First of all, isn't it the time for the government to, promote its policy? Does it require the support of industry? Is it the case that digital broadcasting has been proven to be a failure? And secondly, what would the government do in the light of the current market situation? And fourthly, a question for the officials. For the next 12 months, can the Bureau tell the industry how many digital radio broadcasting stations will there be in Hong Kong? Thank you. Mr. Liu Chin-feng. Thank you. Is the honourable member over there, has put up his hand? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that the radio station is very important to the members of the public. We have many radio stations in Hong Kong, but when people want to listen to, alternative voices for the existing radio stations, we hear more or less the same thing. When DBC started to broadcast, we found out that this is a platform which is really very popular with the people. But I don't understand why all of a sudden, while we have got used to listening to the DBC broadcast, its service is stopped. Shouldn't we be entitled to listen to such programs? Shouldn't the government protect our rights? But as far as this incident is concerned, I don't know why the government is not doing anything. When the government what criteria did the government, follow when it issued a license to DBC, and it doesn't offer us an explanation as to why service is suspended. Many senior citizens simply, know that they can no longer listen to the broadcast by DBC. I'd like to know what are the criteria according to which the license was issued, and how is the DBC regulated. Does it mean that the authorities will regulate the performance of the DBC? It will not intervene with the operations of the station? Or when some incidents happen, what directions have the administration given to the station? Instruction and persuasion are not the same. Instruction means that the government has the power to instruct the station to do certain things. But in this case, is it the case that the government doesn't have any authority at all, and that if there's any problem, you resolve it yourselves, otherwise you can close down? The government doesn't care. The government doesn't care about public interest. You're only a business organization. Whether or not the public will listen to such program is none of my business. Is that the attitude of the government? For the general public, we don't care about the disputes among the shareholders. As far as we're concerned, we don't understand what happened. But what we are concerned about is why is it that a radio station suddenly, stop broadcasting programs that we like. Ms. Sin, I'd like to ask this question. Service of the DBC has ceased for almost a month, and the government has only sent letters to the DBC making inquiries and is waiting passively for a reply. Other than writing letters to the DBC, does the administration have any other ways to resolve this problem? Because this incident has stalled for more than a month, and nothing seems to have been done except for the fine of $80,000. Mr. Chen Shuk-yu. Thank you. DBC is really, a broadcasting station, broadcasting quality programs, but now its service is suspended because of disputes among its shareholders. We are a metropolitan city, but the government would allow the shareholders to close down the radio station for whatever reasons. What is unbelievable is that the SECD is adopting a totally different attitude. When the government issued a license to a radio station, it must have considered the application and vetted the applications very carefully. On the one hand, the government is actively promoting digital broadcasting, and on the other hand, it is adopting a different attitude regarding the suspension of the first digital broadcasting station. The close down of DBC really infuriates the public, and we find it regrettable. The Secretary may say that we are the fans of Mr. Albert Zhang. I like to say to the Secretary that I have not listened to the DBC previously. I've only started to listen to the programs over the last 2 months, because the government is adopting different standards when issuing licenses to the broadcasters. I hope members will really act according to the conscience and address the issue seriously regarding the close down of DBC. Mr. Low, I'd like to tell a true story. I'm a volunteer I'm a member of the volunteer group in support of the DBC. I worked as a volunteer for 3 months. In the middle of August, we organized over the weekend a signature campaign from 4 to 7 p.m. At 6:59 p.m., I saw an elderly lady who was sitting on a wheelchair. Her hair was all white. She obviously was in her 80s, and there were two men, a man and there was a couple in the 50s pushing her on her wheelchair and came to us to sign, put down the signature. When we were about to close down and but when we saw them approaching, we waited for them to come and put down the signatures. And I was really in tears inside because a senior elderly lady would so much like to listen to Mr. Albert Chung's program, but the officials are so, callous. At the end of August, in the Hang Hao MTR station, you were distributing pamphlets. I was also putting up a stand there. There was a family living in Sai Kung, and the time, I think we were putting up a stand from 6:30 to 9, and this person drove to the Hang Hao MTR station at 30:30. It was a couple. They wanted to, and the children who were in their 20s, they said that they would definitely want to come and show the support to Albert Chang. On the third occasion, the 21st of October, Sunday evening, the program ended at 11 p.m. and the DBC's broadcasting ceased after that. At 11:15, well, I was a volunteer, and I saw this elderly lady leaving. She was in her 60s. It was not just this elderly lady leaving. She actually brought along her mother, who was in her 90s, to listen to Mr. Albert Chung. I was really touched. I'd like to ask Mr. Gregory So, how can you ignore the feelings of these senior elderly ladies? Have you done have you discharged your responsibility? This is really ridiculous. Those in the public gallery, please keep quiet. I'm young, it's fine with me, but you have senior citizens coming out all the way from Jimun and Yunlong to show the support for Mr. Albert Chung, listening to broadcasters like Mr. Lam Yuk-wa, Peter Lam, and also Mr. Gary Chang. They have to pay for their trips and spend more than 3 hours to show the support. You should understand why. And also, Mr. So, have you done your own homework? In the 1978, there was a ward report. Have you read that report, Mr. Tang Chi Chung?
Very angry. I want to condemn the government for this is purely serious of conflict of interest, because the government is irritated with the media. There are evidences, and your CPU, Xiu Xin-po, is saying that he wants to mediate the media. He wants to even control the media. So, Mr. So, tell us whether you are a liar or you and Xiu Xin-po liar, right? Either you, because 26, you said to us that you want to uphold freedom of speech. And Xiu Xin-po is saying that negatively. I also have email exchange with Invest Hong Kong, one of your officers in Canada. I don't want to open her name. She is sorry that she understands that this DBC issue is affecting Hong Kong's overall image, and it damaged Hong Kong as a business hub. And she said that for the past 10 days or more, she couldn't do anything, but this is you are her boss, that should be doing something, but haven't done anything. I also want to mention that many government officials and even Mr. Cam So or Greg So, you study overseas and you understand, like for example, Fairchild Radio in Canada or other similar medias are very important to multiculturalism, and also for our overseas Hong Kong people to get in touch with and even consider to come back and invest and contribute to Hong Kong. And you're doing nothing is very much wrong. Thank you.
羅旭啟先生。
Mr. Yuk-man. Mr. So has told us today that the government is folding up its hands and is, washing its hands of the whole incident and is not going to investigate into possible political interference or self-censorship on the part of the DBC resulting in its closing down. His reason was that this is a commercial dispute and a dispute among the shareholders. There are two reasons I'd like to put to the government. I don't think there's any way you can wash your hands of this whole incident, because if it is really a commercial dispute, it certainly involves political interference and political censorship. The government still has the important responsibility to defend major social interests and to ensure that our valuable, airwaves, valuable resources, which is our airwaves, will be used properly, and that there should be and that there would be many channels for the media. So I think you should conduct an investigation. In the case of the relay of the broadcasting of the Olympics Games, you were willing to intervene. I don't know why. There's no reason why you shouldn't intervene in this case. Article 4 of the Basic Law requires the government to maintain the freedom and rights of the people of Hong Kong, and in this regard you are in dereliction of your duties. I hope the government will really appoint an independent judge and set up an independent investigation committee to conduct an investigation. And secondly, is this really a case of a business dispute? If Mr. Albert Cheng offered to the other party to either sell his shares or to buy the shares from the other party, if this is proven to be acceptable, then the transaction should go through. Otherwise, if the other party thinks that it is not viable, he should sell his shares to Mr. Albert Cheng. But he didn't do either, and instead had the station closed down, resulting in a total loss. Compared with recovering half the losses, I think is that investor making a right decision? So it's difficult for us to believe that what is developing now is an outcome of a commercial dispute. We have such queries. The Human Rights Monitor have very good and solid grounds for our suspicion. That is, we wonder whether or not the government has also its own interest over this incident, and that it doesn't want a radio station which criticizes the government to continue to operate, and that it doesn't want Hong Kong to have wide spectrum of broadcasting services. The EXCO member, apparently the Hong Kong as a government. I'm sorry, Mr. Law, your time is up. So next, well, I think the public has the following comments. First of all, the DBC is a licensed organization. If it suspended broadcasts in breach of the ordinance, the government should deal with it properly. The government also has the responsibility to ensure that the cessation of broadcasting should not involve non-commercial and political reasons. It should explain what factors caused the cessation of broadcasting. Secondly, I understand the government should defend freedom of speech. But the recording broadcast by the DBC rally show that the Chinese liaison office is against the DBC, hiring someone who is critical of the government. And I think the government should investigate into this. Thirdly, I understand that the investment among by the shareholders is not regulated, but some of the DBC shareholders use the pretext that the operation is not managed efficiently, and they refuse to further inject capital, and that resulted in the DBC's lacking in capital and has to stop broadcasting. I think that shareholder has already applied to the court to check the accounts of the station, and therefore they should give an account of the result of the investigation to show that the ground for the refusal to further inject capital is valid. Mr. Albert Cheng also made a counter proposal to buy the shares from the other party, but there is no response. We believe that this is unusual. The government should intervene and try to investigate, and also ensure justice is done to the shareholders. The government is acting differently, and that is very irresponsible. The government should, the electrical members there should hold the government accountable. Based on the principle that the government should not intervene with the media, some of the shareholders of the DBC have successfully applied to the court for a temporary injunction and a receiver, and also pledged to the court that they will continue to broadcast in order to maintain their license. But eventually, after they've taken over the broadcasting of service was suspended. So we really doubt the motive of the applicant. The government should ask the shareholders who are in dispute to explain their respective positions, and some shareholders should also explain why they've adopted taken steps which affect normal broadcasting. For example, the reason for the refusal to inject capital, and why they promised to maintain service and eventually they have not done that. The government should provide a full report. We should ask them for a full report which can help the government to have all the facts. When the CA decided to to cancel the license of DBC, the government should explain to the public all the reasons, the causes for the DBC's cessation of service.
Mr. Lau Kei-yun, thank you. Personally, I'm very sorry that DBC has stopped broadcasting because it signifies that the freedom of speech in Hong Kong has lessened. And the government, as well as the mainstream media, has said that this is a shareholder dispute, but that's wrong. I don't understand this. How can this happen? So, Mr. Gregory So, let's say that at this point, ATV has closed down. So will you interfere? Can you answer me this? If you cannot, then please leave. When the government is launching the digital audio broadcasting policy, but now the government has not intervened with the DBC cessation of broadcast, and that's absurd. So when the government was promoting the DAB policy, they did not do a lot of promotions on the television advertisements. So even after DBC has a license, the promotion method is only using some posters or some advertising on the taxis or in metro stations. Yes, that has some effect, but will us citizens hear this? Furthermore, after DBC is launched, the government has not advertised the channels. Furthermore, DBC can be said to be not the mainstream radio because there are a lot of some shows that you cannot hear on the mainstream radio. For example, the shows of Mak Yun Sun, etc. So us post-90s don't usually listen to the radio, but DBC provided a very good opportunity for us to listen. So how can these talents represent us and also have some encouraging words for us to continue to live on despite our adversities? So in the D100 channel, one of the audience said that they won't turn on their DAB receiver if DBC does not relaunch, and I feel very saddened to hear this. So why is it such a big failure? That is the government's actions in this. I'm just really wondering if ATV says that they're closing down, how would the government respond? And I would ask Mr. Gregory So to immediately handle the DBC problem. Thank you. Would the people in the public gallery not to clap? Please remain silent, or else you will interfere with our meeting. And once again, I want to remind all people here to not use offensive language to the officials. Next is Ms. Lam Wai-yi. Thank you. Before I knew about DBC, sometimes I would listen to other radio programs. To me, radio programs is not a necessity. When I first started listening to DBC, So I continue to listen from one program to another. And now, from Monday to Friday, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., I am listening to DBC. It has been an integral part of my life. On October the 17th at 8 p.m., DBC finally had to stop broadcast. When I turned on the receiver, there was a complete silence. I felt that I became deaf, and I felt extremely saddened. Until there was voluntary broadcast, then I felt a little bit better. After DBC had stopped, I had done a lot of new activities, such as going to CPO to protest. I made a letter to complain to Mr. Gregory So, and also complained to communication authorities. And I made a lot of emails to Mr. Gregory So, but I never received any responses. I feel very disappointed in Mr. Gregory So. If there are any unsatisfactory unsatisfactory opinions, I can express them to DBC, but now I cannot do it anymore. I have no channel to express my feelings. So I strongly urge Mr. Gregory So, the Secretary of CEDB and the government, to investigate as to why DBC stopped broadcasting, and ask the LegCo to set a select committee to investigate the DBC incident. Thank you. Ms. Deng Po-chu, thank you. So I'm just a woman. Usually I don't want to care about politics or commercial disputes, but I must come because life is short. So when you come up and broadcast, when you come and protest, sometimes you can get what you want. If we don't come up, then Mr. Gregory So will have a very easy life. Then he doesn't have to do any work. In regards to DBC, I feel very sad about this, because a lot of seniors' homes, a lot of people who feel their lives are dull, they can hear music and hear Mr. Mak Yun Sen, and it makes them feel better. And other radio channels may not have such quality. The panel for information technology and broadcast has taken a very almost apathetic attitude. Besides hearing this on the DBC, I heard that they are about to broadcast. I think that the government should have, and also some media should be very concerned. It's very difficult to launch a radio station. So why is it there are no news or press releases talking about this issue? This is very unusual, and it's not something welcomed by the Hong Kong public. So there are no coverages in the newspaper, and other radio stations also did not talk about this. Also, did the panel handle the incidents of DBC cessation of broadcast? It is their work, because they are about broadcasting. Now a broadcasting organization has stopped broadcasting. Have they handled this incident? There's been no expression of their position. Further, after DBC stopped broadcasting, then the license may be revoked. Mr. Gregory So, as the secretary has they proactively mediated the shareholders within this organization. Thank you. Ms. Yuk-chi, I am an ordinary tax-paying citizen. I only have very simple wants. I want more entertainment, but what I feel is that Mr. Gregory So is denying my right. as a chief official, why is it that you are not opening the entertainment for citizens? There are 7 million Hong Kong people. There are only 2 free television licenses and 3 radio stations. Do you think that is enough? Furthermore, I really don't want to watch ATV. I'm just pretending that doesn't exist. As TVB, because there's only 1 channel, they don't have to serve us. I feel like that Hong Kong citizens are very hungry. They only have food shows on TVB. The government has said that they should support Hong Kong's entertainment products. Hong Kong used to be the Hollywood of the East. For the new television channels and new radio stations can increase the quality of Hong Kong entertainment. DBC is something that I listen from 8:30 a.m. until the show for Mr. Mac-Yun's show has ended. Why is that? I cannot turn it off. It's very, very entertaining. All the talents are very conscientious in producing the shows. If you want to... Now you want to end it suddenly, and I feel very angry. You are denying my rights. If you're watching ATV sometimes, you feel shamed watching it because it is causing the Hong Kong's reputation to suffer. If they continue like this, I would be ashamed to call myself to be from Hong Kong. Mr. Gregory So, please use your morality to develop Hong Kong's entertainment products. There must be more variety to show that Hong Kong is an international city. You cannot destroy Hong Kong. When I hear DBC, I hear that a lot of different listeners from all over the world will listen to express their opinion on DBC. I think that DBC can push the digital audio broadcast to the whole world, and that is something for Hong Kong people to be proud of. Why don't you take care to ensure its success? I think as long as we can say that allow DBC to continue broadcasting, that's all you need to do. Why is it that instead you are actually proactively destroying it? So some of the shareholders say that. Ms. Amelia Zhang. As to stopping the broadcasting of DPC, I feel extremely dissatisfied with the way Mr. Gregory So is handling this. I am a taxpayer and I've never been on the streets to protest, but on this incident, I think that Mr. Gregory So has forced me to do so. Mr. Gregory So has not openly answered our questions. Can the government find someone to answer my questions first? Because some of DBC's shareholders do not fulfill their contracts and inject capital. Therefore, DBC has to stop broadcast and citizens suffer. So can the government not do anything about this? DBC is a quality channel and there's a variety of shows. Just because of this channel, I bought 2 DAB receivers. Who will be responsible for my loss? Third, the interim receivers have applied to change the broadcast time. But until today, they have not just changed the broadcast time, they have stopped broadcasting. These are 2 different things. So the government, in terms of this incident, how will they handle this? Is it that you will not do anything? The government has not expressed their position and have not been responsible. So shouldn't you do something about this? Fourth, is there a chance for DBC to get the license again and to broadcast again? I hope the government will answer my questions. If Mr. Gregory So cannot, can you find someone else to do it? Thank you. Miss Shem Yun Ming, thank you. I came here with a lot of courage to hope that to do justice to DBC. There are around 80 or so people speaking for DBC. We never thought about talking to Let's Go here. But I just need something I want to be accompanied. I feel like DBC is a family. So when the voluntary broadcasting has stopped, I feel like I can't even breathe. Have you ever imagined that a DBC has become your family? I don't even know about my bank account, but I have a lot of patience to listen to financial shows on DBC because I think the talent is like my mother. I never watch horse gambling, but I like to hear the program about gambling on the channel. Now I'm a participant in civic society because I feel my conscience has been awakened, and I feel that Albert Chang is someone that has awakened me, like a family member. Please keep quiet. In these few months, DBC has shared a message with a lot of their audience. DBC has touched employees and audience because it has helped Hong Kong people feel its sincerity and the true Hong Kong spirit. It's not about something empty, and it's about helping each other and tolerance. A lot of people said that we have been used by DBC, but please do not insult me. DBC's financial position has always been open, and Mr. Albert Chang's and Morris has been very effective. A lot of people, including Mr. Gregory So, do not want to interfere with commercial disputes. That's because, but that is not the truth. We cannot awake some people who are pretending who are to be asleep, such as the government. But know that in the last show, one of the talents has been praying for one of his opponents. I feel that even though I don't understand the internalities of DBC, but I think that I still believe in DBC. But I think that we must be determined because we must use DBC spirit to protect Hong Kong. Thank you. Please do not clap. Mr. Wang Chi-man, thank you. I too am a very silent citizen. I never thought I would come here to talk. But DBC is speaking for the citizens, but now been silenced. So I feel that I must come up and speak for it. DBC, under Mr. Albert Chang and the efforts of others, has let Hong Kong spirits to come back, such as unity, fighting spirit, and most importantly, its sincerity. DBC, in a very short time, has influenced audience from all levels and caused them to be a part of their life. But in this very rapid development, some of the shareholders, such as Bill Wong, David Lee, Wang Qiyan, Arthur Lee, EXCO member, they refused to inject capital and also not sell the shares, and so to cause DBC to end. So this is a clearly usurp of public resources, and I think that we must criticize this and this should be investigated. Mr. Gregory So keep on saying that this is a shareholder dispute and therefore do not handle the situation. He also says that he cannot be a commercial mediator, but you've forgotten something. You are an accountable official. You are accountable to the citizens. Mr. Gregory So has already heard a clip which says that shareholders have been affected by the liaison office, and the truth is they want to kill DBC. So Hong Kong citizens' rights have been stripped. So Mr. Gregory So, should you not even call the people involved, or perhaps you should investigate liaison office if you have the guts. And most importantly, you must be accountable to the citizens, but you haven't done any of this. I'm starting to suspect, is it that you have been influenced by the politics and been pressured by it? So, Mr. Gregory So, why don't you resign and find someone who is more accountable and more capable to handle this situation?
But the whole thing has been festering in the community. People are getting resentful of the government. Is Hong Kong being interfered by certain bodies? All these show that Hong Kong people are having doubts about one country, two systems, and this is not really something made up. LegCo should be answerable to the members of the public and set up a select committee to carry out the investigation. Fortunately, the House Committee rejected this idea, and the DBC has died an unexplained death. And I would like to urge for a select committee to be formed. Ms. Solei Yung, Madam Chair, I've been a faithful listener to the DBC. When I heard its discontinuation, I feel very, very disappointed. And DBC provides a wide variety of programs, academic, current affairs, showbiz, and so on are included. With its cessation, there is public interest at stake. I've bought 2 digital receivers. Now, with the discontinuation of DBC, it is lying there in waste. It is a commercial broadcaster. The government has the obligation to monitor its operation. Myself and many fellow citizens and senior citizens and housewives, disabled, they spend every day listening to the DBC for leisure. You may argue that we can switch to other channels, but we find that DBC has very high-quality programs with good hosts. Many of the hosts are accompanying us every day, and this is why DBC is popular with the audience. Second, unemployment of the staff. There are 600 staff members. With the cessation of DBC, many people are thrown out of a job, and people are finding themselves in a helpless situation. It's very difficult for them to find a job. I hope that the government, the Labour Department, would help this joblessness problem. Finally, the development of digital broadcasting. The government has been promoting DAB, and DBC is a success story of DAB. It has a very high quality. There may be other digital broadcaster, but I find that DBC is one of the best. With the cessation of DBC, it would certainly undermine the development of digital audio broadcasting. Technology is developing by leaps and bounds, and this DAB should be a major initiative of the government. I would suggest that the government should step in and investigate the cessation of broadcasting by DBC and give us a full account of what happened. We like to see DBC resume, not because we have any political agenda, but because we just want it back. Many people are losing faith in the government. Is the government really intending to add more trouble on their plate? Right, Mr. Kwok Kin Chung, I regret what happened to DBC. I'm not happy with how Mr. Kwek So handled the situation. As the principal official, Mr. Kwek So merely cited commercial disputes as a reason for not intervening. DBC is a licensed broadcaster. It does control the airwaves. The government does have the obligation to step in and mediate the disputes among the shareholders. Previously, when ATV was embroiled in shareholders' disputes, the former secretary was aware of the situation, and he explained the whole thing to the media. And you are citing commercial disputes and refuse to do anything at all, and you don't even do any PR work. I mean, I find it wholly mystifying. Some speakers mentioned a moment ago what Mr. Xu Jinpo of CPU said. I can't help thinking why DBC went belly up after Leung Chen-ying has become CE. There must be some reasons behind it, not just commercial disputes. The shareholders are business people. If the government thinks that this is only a business, it's not reasonable. Mr. Albert Cheng suggested that he acquire the shareholders or he sells off the shares, and they refused. Now, this is not what a business person would think, and this is wholly unreasonable. I don't think this is all about business. In March, at the election forum for the CE, there was a mention of the reasons why Mr. Cheng was taken off the airwaves, and if we think about what Mr. Xu Jinping said, is it true that some people don't really want to see freedom of speech, and they don't really want to hear criticisms of the government, and they're trying to silence the people, these people? I feel that all of us here and the members of the public would come to this analysis. If this is indeed what's happening in Hong Kong, I don't understand why is it this has got nothing to do with freedom of speech. All right, Ms. Yong Ka-yen. Madam Chair, a lot of senior citizens are listening to the DBC. They don't have a good enough vision to watch television, and they may not be sufficiently mobile for them to go all over the place, and they have only one channel to receive information, and that is the radio. When the senior citizens become aware of the cessation of the DBC, they call crying to the radio, and they don't really want to see it go. This is the only source of entertainment for them. Why do we want to see the senior citizens to be in tears and ask for the broadcasting to be back? In one of the programs, and also at the sit-ins outside the government secretariat, I was also part of the protest. I saw so many senior citizens. They are on crutches, and they were doddering old men and women, and they staggered to the site, carrying with them their own digital receivers, listening to the voluntary programs that were on air. They asked us whether DBC is going to be going off the air, and they said that they are here to support the DBC, and they want us to lead them there. And they're living in Yunlong, Tinshui, and Tai Po. Now, this ridiculous government, these people are coming all the way, changing transport a few times. They're not really coming here for fun. They're coming here to fight for their own fundamental right to listen to their favorite programs and their favorite hosts. They're not seeking, they've given up seeking more fruit money from the government. They're merely content with listening to their favorite programs in their shoeboxes that they're living in. But the government doesn't allow this to happen. The senior citizens don't really want to ask for Greg So or Paul Chen to step down. They're merely asking for the resumption of service of DBC. So I'd like to let the honourable members and the government officials know that you should not ignore the modest request on the part of the senior citizens, and the government should step in so that the senior citizens would have a sense of belonging, would have a sense of worth in our community. Mr. Zhou Wong, I am speaking on behalf of the Civic Party. I am a former employee of the DBC. When the broadcaster was first started, some suggested that this is a museum of broadcasting, and I do feel that this is a lively museum. This has provided me with a lot of learning opportunities. A lot of young people have joined, and they're living in Dongchong, Tinshui, Tai Po, and they spend 1 or 2 hours every day traveling to and from work, and they bring along with them their lunch boxes, and they they eat the pre-packaged food from the supermarket for lunch, and this is a long journey for them to travel to and from work. I'm sure that they do have passion, they do have expectation of digital broadcasting. Now, if you look at other broadcasters, how passionate are they to promote digital broadcasting? I think Mr. Hui mentioned the sale situation of digital radios. For the other three digital broadcasting organizations, I wonder how they promote their programs, what resources are they devoting to promotion, and how many hours of programming have they got, and how many staff members have they got. If the government is minded to promote the development of digital audio broadcasting, they should supervise or review the operation of the other three broadcasters, and they have to submit all this information as to how they are promoting audio broadcasting in Hong Kong. As to the disputes among the shareholders, is it political motivated, or is it really a commercial dispute? I hope that a select committee should be formed so that we can find out who is right and who is wrong. I think it takes a select committee to be formed. The government is promoting digital audio broadcasting. Now, whether we're talking about the DBC or other digital broadcaster, the government should monitor their operation. That way, the digital audio broadcasting will enjoy freedom of speech, and that way the development of digital audio broadcasting will not be given a short shrift. Otherwise, they would be filling us with a lot of concerns. Right? I'm Cindy Lai. I am just an ordinary citizen, a taxpayer. I never joined sit-ins or rallies. Since the cessation of the DBC, I've been trying to gather together people power to make things happen. On behalf of the DBC audience, I must say that some of them did not listen to DBC much. And why is it that the DBC audience would like to go to all these trouble to get it to be resumed? The DBC provides a wide variety of rich programs. It is a broadcaster that tells truth. We are given better understanding of the government administration, and if we feel aggrieved, we're given an opportunity to air our views. Among the DBC audience, they keep saying that DBC is no ordinary broadcaster. It has become part of our life, like our relative, and we feel really bad not to be able to listen to it. Now it has been taken off the air. It feels as if some of our kins are suffering from illness, and we feel really bad. And I hope that Mr. Kwek So, the SCED, will try to find out more about the cessation of the DBC and bring back DBC to the airwaves. As a responsible government, it should be sympathetic to the members of the public instead of being always on a collision course with the members of the public. Ms. Vivian Van. I am also an ordinary citizen of Hong Kong. I don't usually come out in protest. The first thing I'd like to say is that for the government to issue a license to a new digital broadcaster, now it took about 4 years for the license to be issued. The DBC has occupied the airwaves, and it is a source of entertainment for a lot of members of the public who don't really have any other forms of entertainment. Every single morning we turn on the radio and leave it on all day because it is free. And second, a lot of us will not go out because whenever we go out, we have to spend money, and many people only rely on the radio as the single source of entertainment. You might ask me why we don't watch television. Well, I've stopped watching TV for 6 years. I've been listening to the DBC for only 3 months, but it has changed my whole life. I usually just read and listen to music, but the moment I started listening to the DBC, I cannot give up listening to it. I feel really despondent without the DBC. If I may ask the administration, when the administration became aware of the problems at DBC, why didn't Mr. Kwek So do anything at all? Why didn't he do anything in accordance with the established procedures? I'm not asking you to step in. Why don't you act in accordance with the licensing conditions? I also urge the Electrical to set up a select committee to look into what goes on at DBC and bring back the free airwaves to the audience. Finally, I'd like to say in conclusion that government officials like Mr. Kwek So, you are an accountable official. Why do you merely take the pay from the taxpayers without being responsible to the taxpayers? All right. Now we move on to questions. 4 minutes for each member. For Emily Lau, Raymond Chen, Charles Mock, Claudia Mbo, and Sin Chung Kai have raised their hands. Ms. Emily Lau first. Madam Chair, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us this morning and airing their views. The Democratic Party has heard clearly what it had to say. We find that the administration has been acting in an appalling manner. They should have stepped in. I agree with some of you, like Mr. Loh Yuk Kai. Under the Basic Law, the administration has to ensure that Hong Kong will have a pluralistic society, enabling us to express our views freely. Broadcasting is not just a business. Now, we heard Mr. Hui, the Promotion Society of Digital Broadcasting, he said that Hong Kong should have a fine environment. In Hong Kong, he used to sell 10 digital radios per day, but he cannot sell even one these days. And there are some small companies that have made hundreds of millions of hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment. They have all these digital receivers lying around, and they cannot be sold. And I have to put this question to the Secretary. How do you view the existing environment for digital audio broadcasting? And I mean, they are left high and dry at the present moment. Will there be any future for digital broadcasting in Hong Kong? Some asked why you stepped in regarding the London Olympics. Right now, there are so many people who are likely to be thrown out of a job, and they're deprived of any audio broadcasting. Are you saying that this is merely a business, or is there any public interest that is involved that warrant intervention? Thank you.
Mr. So, thank you. I'd like to thank all the deputations for attending the hearing and giving us your valuable views. If I may respond to some of the comments. Chairman, I think you should allow him more time to respond. Chairman, I think we all know that the government has always supported digital broadcasting. In March 2011, we issued 3 licenses. We expected that there would be 18 channels through which digital broadcasting programs should be made available. The 3 applicants have submitted the plans, the investment plans, and their programming details, the arrangements regarding the channels. I think we've dealt with all that. The 3 investors have also commissioned the service. As I said at the beginning, the DBC incident certainly has an impact on digital broadcasting. The DBC has 7 channels. We hope, therefore, that DBC can operate normally so that digital broadcasting can be, further developed. In this regard, will those in the public gallery please observe silence? Madam Chair, I've also bought 2 digital radio receivers. I also hope that I'll be able to listen to receive such information. Within the administration, it is our policy to support digital broadcasting. Other than issuing licenses, we've also spent a lot of resources, and some deputations have also pointed out that the government has also spent $4 million in promoting digital broadcasting to the public. And among the 11 tunnels, the government has also installed facilities. We've spent $46 million in these facilities within tunnels so that the public can receive broadcasting. I've already, given you warnings many times already. If you continue to disturb the meeting, we'll have to ask you to leave. It's not like what somebody suggested that we don't care. Actually, on many occasions, we've liaised closely with DBC to find out about the operations. But the internal business disputes about shareholders is something that we would not intervene with. Some deputations also mentioned that this is not really a business dispute. At the last panel meeting, I also quoted Mr. Albert Chang's counsel, who had said in public and clarified that this incident is indeed a commercial dispute. And I think that already has clearly explained the nature of the incident. Please observe silence. The administration very much hope that the DBC can resume its operations. Madam Chair. For those who continue to disturb our proceedings, they will be asked to leave. I must emphasize that the government's intervention should not involve the operations of the broadcasting organization. Some deputations mentioned the issue relating the relay of the Olympics games, but that incident involved problems between different organizations, and the government helped on that occasion. But as far as the internal operations of DBC is concerned, it doesn't mean that the government should intervene. So I think we've drawn the line very clearly. We should not intervene with the internal operations of a broadcasting organization. Mr. Emily Lau asked whether or not we were responsible for the mess. I've already explained that we already have different policies in place to support digital broadcasting. Our policy and our measures are very clear. DBC has now suspended its service, and we hope that during this period, the shareholders can come to an agreement. We don't want to see this happen. We want the shareholders to continue to work hard to resolve the differences. Madam Chair, the CA will deal with this incident within the framework of the ordinance, and the application will be dealt with as soon as possible. I think Mr. So has not answered my question. The retail industry is now really suffering. They're not able to sell even one single radio receiver in 10 days. So what has happened has affected the development of the entire industry. How do you propose to deal with that, Mr. So? We've launched this policy to facilitate the development of digital broadcasting. There are 18 channels. DBC has taken up 7 of those. And I think at the moment the best solution to the problem is for the shareholders of DBC to come to an agreement so that DBC can resume broadcasting as soon as possible. Mr. Chen Chi-chin. Madam Chair, during the first session, I think we've already heard 30 deputations, and I think the views are all very clear and one-sided. The deputations all believe that the government has not done its part, and indeed it has even evaded its responsibility. All those in this chamber and those in the public gallery, you say, have misled you, but shouldn't you tell us whether you're actively doing something to help resolve this incident. Now, would you describe the DBC incident as a business dispute or dispute among the shareholders? Does the government has no role to play here? The DBC is a licensing authority. When something a problem has happened, the government should really try to intervene and conduct an investigation. Have you really conducted any investigation? What have you done for the past month? Or are you trying your best to wash your hands of the whole incident? You're worried that you'll be smeared if you intervene. I'd like to allow some time for Mr. Albert Cheung or Morris to tell us that is since October. Well, Mr. So said that they are doing something. As the two of you are concerned, have they done anything? Have they continued to liaise with you and update you on the progress? Mr. Albert Cheung or Mr. Morris Ho, would you like to respond? From early November until now, well, DBC has already been taken over by the receiver, Deacons, that is. Mr. Albert Cheung and myself no longer have any authority to operate the station. As far as we know, the CA has been in touch with the receiver, and the correspondence was between the administration and the receiver, and not through myself and Mr. Albert Cheung. So both myself and Mr. Cheung don't really know too much about the details. So in the whole world, only Mr. So knows, and the public obviously know even less. So, Mr. Secretary, could you try your best to explain to us this morning so that all those who are concerned about the incident, all those who are present in this chamber would know more about what the Bureau is doing? Otherwise, we will have blamed you wrongly, because everyone will be queuing up to blame you. Are we talking about a commercial dispute or a dispute among the shareholders? The government is saying that it doesn't have any role to play and is trying to evade its responsibility. So what have you done? Well, Madam Chair, I've already said earlier that I've cited the words of Mr. Albert Cheung's counsel that this incident is a business dispute. The latest development, as I explained to you at the beginning, well, you see, saying the same thing and they don't accept explanation. Well, at the beginning, I've already updated you on the latest development. Obviously, we need the shareholders of DBC to come to a meeting to resolve this problem. I did not attend the meeting. I don't know what was the outcome of that meeting. But as far as the injection of capital is concerned, we must have there must be a consensus among the shareholders. So what has the Bureau done meanwhile? Mr. Albert Cheung. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to clarify one point. Mr. So said that he had cited what my words or comments about the cessation of service and that I said that it was a commercial dispute. I've never said that. I've always maintained that this is actually a case of political pressure being applied onto the station. No, I didn't say that you said this, but it was Ms. Ronnie Tong who made that comment. And secondly, when the government issued the license, the government has already vetted the financial ability of the applicants. In our application, our shareholders have undertaken that after being issued a license, we will invest $620 million in the next 6 years. So far, our shareholders have only injected $150 million. We've just convened an emergency, extraordinary shareholders meetings, and I've been authorized to disclose 3 points. First of all, some shareholders have suggested that myself and Mr. Ho should be stripped of our position, and that resolution was not passed at the meeting. And secondly, the majority shareholder have all joined forces indicating that they will neither sell the shares or buy the shares from us. And thirdly, these shareholders proposed that the DBC should be liquidated, and that resolution again was not approved because of the objection from myself and Mr. Ho. So we're now in a deadlock, and the government therefore must step in. At the last panel meeting, the government said that the DBC has already, pursuant to the has actually met the requirement regarding investment. When we obtained, given the license, the $150 million had already been spent when we prepare for the AM broadcasting and the soft launch. I think we've already spent more than $7 or $80 million. Even the Bureau say that our shareholders during the first year have already made the required investments. I think that is again a misleading statement. Mr. Chan, I'd like to just make one final point. I think up to now the Bureau has not done anything. It pretends to be doing something when it has not. So could the Secretary please admit that? Well, I'd like to say that the administration has been actively following up on this incident. Mr. Albert Chang talk about the $620 million investment. That was a commitment to invest that amount over the next 6 years. And our colleagues already confirmed that the investment for the first year has already met the required target. And I think we've already made this stated a position very clearly last time. Mr. Mok, we've heard many deputations this morning, and I'm really touched because in Hong Kong, you wouldn't find another TV or radio stations where which would have so many of its supporters genuinely showing the support and expressing the hope that they can listen to its programs again. When the deputations are expressing the sentiment or clapping their hands, I can understand that. There are many things. There's no way for them to express themselves, and that's the reason why they have reacted so strongly. So, Madam Chair, you must understand you shouldn't stop them from clapping. However, well, we have our rules and procedures. So I think they have already been very restrained already. So I have several questions and comments. Ms. Tang Po-chi said that our panel has not really done with this issue. That is not true. At least we have the hearing today. And secondly, we've also passed a resolution suggesting that we should set up a special committee. But once this was put to the House committee, and since you know that we don't have sufficient votes, our proposal was vetoed. Mr. Albert Chang made that proposal again, and this will be taken to the full council. But I think we can more or less predict what the outcome would be. We have already tried our best. We've tried to give you the room or the space. But in this council, there are many colleagues who can simply refuse to listen. And thirdly, I have a question for Mr. Tang Chi-chung. Oh, he's gone already. Earlier, I didn't hear him too clearly. He talked about Invest Hong Kong in Canada, and some messages were relayed to the Secretary. He talked about the impact on investors who might come to Hong Kong. I didn't hear him too clearly. So I'd like to ask the Secretary, how would you comment on this incident? That is, the the negative impact of the DBC incident on the investment environment of Hong Kong. Mr. Secretary, you said that you want the 7 channels to resume broadcasting, so that you would also use your own receivers again. But do you think that what you've done is sufficient, and whether or not you've considered making an appointment to meet with the shareholders of DBC to find out more about the problem? You said that you can deal with disputes or problems between organizations. You will not intervene when it's a dispute within an organization itself. You've made that point very clearly. But Mr. Secretary, how did you come up with that criteria, and how did you draw that line? And thirdly, many people believe that there is political interference in this incident, and public interest is affected. And it also affects our confidence in Hong Kong and our confidence in the one country, two systems principle and our economy. So I don't think we should ignore that. I think Mr. Wong also made a very valid point. That is, have you made any comparison other than the DBC? Well, you've asked 4 questions. Well, I think I more or less can expect what the Secretary will say in response, so I'll go ahead with my questions anyway. You can also certainly allow the Secretary more time to respond. Comparing the 3 radio stations, the investment, the manpower resources, the programs. The other 2 commercial broadcasters in RTHK, how much resources and manpower have they committed to digital broadcasting? The Secretary, perhaps you can give us a paper comparing DBC with all those other broadcasters so that we would know who has done more and who has not done enough. You're not going to allow him to respond? Mr. So can give a global response later on. Ms. Claudia Mo. First of all, I'd like to remind the Madam Chairman that the topic today is freedom of speech. I don't think you should. We should always remind us that we shouldn't offend the officers, especially for the young people who are expressing the views of those born in the 90s. I've listened to what he said. I don't think he has offended anybody. I don't think these are comments which are necessary. And thirdly, I very much regret that the Secretary is still repeating the same thing. I also like to reiterate that the Secretary is actually, misquoting Mr. Ronnie Tong. My understanding is that Mr. Ronnie Tong did not speak in his capacity as Mr. Cheng's lawyer, but rather in his capacity as a legal member. Well, he has not put up his hand, and he is now speaking whenever he likes. My understanding is that Mr. Ronnie Tong said that apparently this is a commercial dispute, but even Ronnie Tong said that if the shareholder refused to buy or sell the shares and refused to make further investment, this is not just an ordinary business dispute. I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Law from the Human Monitor said, that is whether or not the government is condoning those who are rich and powerful. Is there a suspicion that you are, while you need to be accountable, you are paid a high salary, but you have not done anything? You've not done your part at all. So my question is, well, you claim that you're actively helping. Have you asked the China Liaison Office, well, because somebody mentioned the name, have you asked Mr. Bill Wong what actually had happened? Have you asked Mr. David Lee and Mr. Arthur Lee? As an accountable senior officer, you're paid a high salary, but you've come to this council and you are repeating the same line each and every time. Do you think that you're being accountable to the general public? We're talking about freedom of speech and freedom of broadcasting. I also have a question for Mr. Albert Chang. That is, do you have any final strategy. I understand that Mr. Albert Chang and DBC can apply to the court for a temporary suspension of a license and ask for a restructuring of the board. Would that be a possible option, Mr. So?
Mr. Gregory So, can I just answer Mr. Charles Mock's question? You won't have enough time. So why don't you answer uniformly later? So when I heard questions from Claudia Mo, I think there was a question about have I investigated with liaison office or Mr. Bill Wong. I can say that there's no liaison office influence in this issue. When Mr. Bill Wong asked me to open a meeting, I said I will listen to the different individual shareholders, but we are closely monitoring the organization, such as the leaders of Mr. Morris Ho of DBC, and we're talking with Deloitte and the interim receiver. And Mr. Albert Chang, Ms. Claudia Mo has asked you a question. Thank you. First, I want to clarify is that when Mr. Gregory So said that in the first year, the DBC's injection of capital has been met, that is wrong because the September 21st is the official launching date of DBC. But after this date, there had been no injection of capital at all. Secondly, we've already written to the Broadcasting Authority to represent myself, Mr. Morris Ho, and Mr. Ronald Acruli, is that if the shareholder dispute can be resolved, thus us three can resume broadcast in 1 week, and the next month and next week can, accordance to license conditions, can resume broadcasting. We've already promised this to the Broadcasting Authority. We are undertaking some legal procedures to ask about the injection of capital. I want to add is that I understand that some shareholders have suggested to Broadcasting Authority that if the shareholder dispute has reached a consensus, then they will continue. Of course, I hope that the shareholder disputes, that after it is ended, then they will resume broadcast. Of course, the DBC already has a license. Then DBC should broadcast according to the conditions. So once the Broadcasting Authority has received these applications, we will handle this. Mr. Sin Chongkai, I would like to ask some of the depositions. And then another question is for Mr. Albert Chang. First is that I hear that the government should interfere, that Mr. Gregory So should intervene. So can the depositions have any concrete things that they want the government to do? Second is that I want to ask Mr. Albert Chang. Can I just first ask the question? Please be quiet. I'll give you time. Secondly, I want to ask Mr. Albert Chang. Mr. Gregory So seems to say to the public that the DBC has already fulfilled the conditions for the license conditions, and you say that the first year. So Mr. Gregory So said the first year the conditions have been filled, and you say contrary, and you say that the first year should be counted by the date of the official launch. So what I'd like to ask is the date counted by the official launch day or the first day of broadcast? So in terms of the shares not being sold or not being bought, this seems very unusual. I would like to ask Mr. Albert Chang, is it that when the shareholders, if they want to buy or sell amongst themselves, when was the first time when this happened? So when was their decision? You say something about October, there was a decision not to buy or sell. Can you clarify this? So when did you start? When it first started that you or other shareholders invite some other shareholders who do not want to continue operating, but those shareholders don't want to sell. Can you speak more about this? So how about this? There are 3 depositions who have raised their hand. So because Mr. Shin Chong-kai has also asked their questions. So I'd like to see who would like to speak first. So I hope to have 3 of these depositions to speak. Then we have to have time for Mr. Albert Chang and Mr. Gregory So to talk. So I hope everyone will watch the time because this section only goes for 11 a.m. Mr. Lam Hong Tat, thank you, Madam Chair. So I've come to have many open hearings. I've never been so angry. I must also criticize you, Madam Chair. So I think that you're being far too cavalier about saying that we're being offensive. Very simply, Mr. Gregory So, I don't want to hear you repeat what you have said before. First, I'm asking you, will you investigate or not? You will investigate ATV. But DBC, when stop broadcasting, you will not investigate. It's a question of yes or no, that's all. Mr. Luk Lingjong, Mr. Antonio Luk. So after heard this, I'm very angry. I would like to ask Mr. Gregory So, have you looked at your files? In the files, it stated that there are one of them says a lot of appendixes, and one of them says that the government should read the minutes of meeting. Have you read them? Second, about 150 million in the first year. You're saying, is that a very strict guideline that you must meet this? Is that like, can you have any more money for this? This is very illogical when you say that conditions have been fulfilled in the first year. Also, when Claudia Mo asked the question, has there been direct or indirect communication with Mr. Bill Wong, Mr. David, and Arthur Lee? Next deposition. Very simply, I would like to respond to Mr. Gregory So. You said that because of commercial dispute and therefore you will not interfere. So I would like to ask them, why is it that you interfere with ATV? If you think that one radio channel where you will not interfere, but there were such severe restrictions for license conditions. So I would like to say how you protect the public. So because of limited time, I would like to give 2 minutes each to Mr. Albert Chang and Mr. Gregory So. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to answer the question from Mr. Shin Chong-kai about the shares from the June. So the 2 sides of the shareholders. So we've been negotiating since then, and finally, the other side decided not to buy or sell shares. As to injection of capital, I'd like to say to the administration, according to our financial application for our license, which was submitted to the administration, there's not sufficient capital because a lot of the capital has already been used when we're applying for license and applying for AM. The official broadcast date is September 21st. If we look back, during the 6 months before that date, our injection capital is definitely less than 100 million. So it is not the same as what we have been applied. Yes, thank you, Mr. Gregory. So the question to Mr. Shin Chong-kai, when is the first year starts? It is the March of 2011. That is when the license was issued. If Mr. Albert Chang thinks that the quota has not been met, I think you should have a discussion with Broadcasting Authority, and I hope that our licensing organizations can meet their promises. And This has been explained already last time by our colleagues. There's also a question, why did we investigate ATV? The ATV had misled, has broadcasted false information about the death of Mr. Jiang Zemin. This is an investigation because a broadcasting authority, they had not broadcasted news. Their broadcasted news had not been corroborated. No, we're not talking about Mr. Jiang Zemin. Please be quiet. In terms of Olympics, we've already explained that if there's a communication between organizations, we will, as the government, mediate between them. Thank you. Next is Mr. Lan Kwok-hong. Mr. Gregory, so have you decided whether this is a commercial dispute or is it an issue of freedom of speech? So what evidence do you have of saying this? Have you asked someone who said that this is a commercial dispute? Do you want him to answer now? So what is what's the evidence that is based on? Madam Chair, before Mr. Leung has came, I've already responded. Now I understand this. I already said Mr. Ronnie Tong, who was a representative of the council of Mr. Albert Chang, the council. If on this 5 p.m. on Sunday, Mr. Ronnie Tong, as a council, said that he thinks that this is a commercial dispute. Mr. Ronnie Tong is also the representative counsel of Mr. Albert Chang. I understand. Yes, thank you. If you're talking about the injection of capital, of course, that is a commercial dispute. So you're saying that you're also a lawyer. So why are you a secretary? You need to rely on another counsel's opinion to answer me. So are you in the secretary? Are you in the Department of Justice? So how can you rely on something that is said by Mr. Ronnie Tong and answer me? I don't know anything about law. I'm asking you as a secretary. I'm just saying what has been represented by the representative counsel of Mr. Albert Chang, who thinks it's a commercial dispute. Let me just answer the. So you've done a lot of business. Has there been a shareholder who will not buy or sell shares and put money, just sort of like wasting money away? And a lot of my experiences, let me answer first. A lot of shareholders will, because of a lot of different reasons, because of the commercial reasons or other factors, I will not answer this. No. Mr. Lam, it's not your time to answer. Can you please, Mr. Gregory So, to answer? Madam Chair, I cannot represent shareholders and answer what their position is. Mr. Leung, you're saying. Okay, Mr. Gregory So, you're saying that it's a commercial dispute. In the future, what if it isn't? So what will happen? So will you resign? You're saying. Everyone, please let Mr. Leung finish. So you are also a lawyer. You are saying that you, as a secretary, is relying on the counsel of one side. I think that is hearsay, actually. And you're saying that it is commercial dispute. So what if it isn't? So will you resign? Because you're not investigating it. Because you're saying that it's a commercial dispute and therefore you're not investigating. Because you, as a secretary, is monitoring an organization that you issued a license for. And this organization provides to the public a broadcasting service. So if you're giving a statement is that you are treating it as a commercial dispute. In the future, if it isn't. And according to 1978, this report, that you don't handle what's been saying. How can you be accountable to your predecessor, who's only letting you do this because she became sick? So are you going to let Mr. Gregory So respond? You're only in this position because your predecessor is sick. Do we need that person to come back? Miss Rita, your predecessor, Rita Lau. Madam Chair, I've already said many times that in my position, this is a shareholders' dispute. Last time when I had a meeting with Mr. Albert Chang, we all said that this is a question of injection of capital. I asked, and he said it was a shareholders' dispute, and I think that is correct. This is a shareholders' dispute, but it's a commercial dispute. I have already quoted the representative counsel of Mr. Albert Chang in the public forum. I see that Mr. Albert Chang has raised his hand, and Claudia Mo has already once put up her hand. Because this section was the ended, I would like to have Mr. Albert Chan to talk, and then we'll continue the next section. I want to clarify. Okay. Because the administration has said that the time to inject capital is from the 2011 March. Even if I accept this saying, until that time, I feel that me and Morris Ho has the most clear position on this. Our injection has completely not met the criteria. Mr. Albert Chan. So I want to supplement Mr. Leung Kwok Hong when Rita Lau became sick, and so that Mr. Gregory So became the secretary. But before, there were two other officials who refused to become the secretary. Therefore, Mr. Gregory So can be the secretary now. So must be a clarification. First, Mr. Ma Xihang became sick. And then Rita Lau became sick, and they asked the two other officials, and they all both refused to become. And then, so therefore, that is only why Mr. Gregory So can be the secretary. That is a truth. I don't know if that is true or not. Let's talk about the main issue. I don't know why that is relevant. Mr. Gregory So has said lots of times that he is relying on the opinion of Mr. Ronnie Tong, but Mr. Albert Chan has said that as well, and this has also been reported in the newspaper, unless Mr. Gregory So is blind or he is selectively losing his memory. And Mr. Albert Chan has openly said this is political interference. If you truly believe that this is commercial disputes, how about this? Why don't we ask Mr. Andrew Lee, former Chief Justice, to do an investigation? So if it is a political interference, then you resign. If your investigation says that there's no political interference, then I will resign. So why don't we make a bet? You have such confidence that's saying that this is a commercial interference. A secretary has only heard one of the councils from one representative and say that this is commercial dispute, and then you believe him. I'm saying now, me and Mr. Leung, we have 100,000 votes to be, and we're elected by 100,000 votes. So I think that we represent more citizens than one council of one party. Mr. Gregory So, you have no legitimacy because you were not voted by any citizens. I see that Mr. Lam Hong Pa. I want to give him 1 minute to talk. No, we need Mr. Gregory So to respond. I have 30 seconds. I want him to speak first. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Albert Chan. I won't yell anymore. We're talking about freedom of speech. We're talking about one country, two system. According to Article 22 of the Basic Law, the central government cannot interfere with Hong Kong's affairs, but in the clip that we hear of this issue, there is a reasonable causes for us to believe that liaison office has interfered with the broadcast of a radio station. I would like to ask Mr. Gregory So, a radio broadcast, and how does it intersect with the joint declaration in relations to foreign affairs? I know that you cannot answer this. Why don't you ask Peng Chinghua? Okay, Mr. Gregory So.
Let me say this in brief. Let Mr. So answer the question, please. If you don't make the appointment, then you're shying away from the issue. Madam Chair, this is a forum for us to exchange views. The fact that you're shouting doesn't mean that you have a point. Whether we agree with a certain position, it is not a reason for the administration to interfere with a commercial broadcaster. We resume our meeting at the next session. We take a break for 10 minutes.